Hey guys, Sean Malone, Crisis Response International. Have I got an incredible story to tell you guys? I also have a pretty major announcement that we want to make our friends, partners, responders aware of, something significant that we're in the middle of. And I just wanted to fill you guys in. But anyway, there's a story to this, and so I got to back up a little bit. So shortly after we launched Cry in Kansas City at the International House of Prayer, we had a carpet store. We ended up moving out of that. It was a 40,000 square foot building, and we ended up going on a journey to California. The Lord told us to begin doing ARC schools, and there were 3-month crisis response missionary schools. The day that school ended out there in California, we found out that we had lost the property due to zoning issues. Well, the weekend or two before the school ended, and we had found out that news, I had just found out one of our staff had to go down to Mexico. She had some solar issues, and she was going to drive down by herself. Actually, Joanne Fitzgerald, and for those of you who may not know, Joanne just recently passed. So we just found this out maybe a week plus ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. She's an amazing woman. Anyway, we went down to help out Joanne. When I was down with Joanne, I had a dream. And in the dream, I was on the island of Hawaii in the white Cry van, and I was remodeling this hotel room, and Lauren Cunningham, the founder of YWAM, walks into the room, and I had a dusk mask on, and he goes, "Attaboy, good job, Sean, go ahead, put a new face on missions, and I'm not saying like overhaul all of missions, but bring a new face, a new dimension to it is really what the essence of what he was saying." And he said, "I'm going to be grandpa now," and he picks up my couple of daughters in his arms, and he walks out of the room, and the dream ended. The next day, I'm back in California, and I get a phone call from a guy I hadn't spoken to in about 8 years, and he says, "Hey, if you guys ever interested in doing a school in Hawaii, I got a piece of property. I'm stewarding Lou Engel's land down here." And there we were. We ended up in Hawaii, down in South Point. Maybe some of you watching were in that school. It was an amazing time down on the land that Lou was on. Ekbalo Ministries is down there now, the Hall family. Anyway, the day that school ended, we ended up finding out that because of zoning issues, we couldn't do another school there, and the Lord had another purpose. We ended up getting invited to Kona by YWAM to run a crisis response DTS. I happened to have a circus tent, and so we threw up this big yellow and blue tent, and we did a crisis response DTS, and then we ended up doing something down the road at Ships, YWAM Ships. I'm actually looking at the building across the bay here. That was incredible. Jason Alleman came to that school. That's where we met him. Just tremendous fruit from our time in Kona. But the day that school was ending, we had made a decision. We felt like the Lord was drawing us back to the mainland, but I was frustrated. I'm like, "Lord, where is the land of our inheritance?" I'm literally driving my van up on the mountain, just praying, and I'm punching my steering wheel, and I get a text from Frank Bray, and he goes, he said, it's Jeremiah, I think it was 1:10. He goes, "In 3 days' time, you're going to cross the River Jordan, prepare the camp, gather the supplies, you're going to go in and possess the land of your inheritance." He literally sent me a text in regard to the prayer I was crying out. It was absolutely stunning. He goes, "And Sean, by the way, I had a dream about you, and in the dream, you were in this big auditorium, you were preaching, and all of these people had come, they had responded, and you were preaching Billy Graham." He goes, Frank said he wheeled Billy Graham out on the platform, and Billy Graham stood up and he said, "Attaboy, Sean, look at all the people who have responded." I believe, speaking of responders, he goes, "But now it's time to build the Apostolic Sending Center." And he says, there was another phrase in that as well. But and so we took that to mean, so I heard that dream here right before we were leaving Hawaii, and actually did a video about those two dreams right there, and announcing, "Hey, we're going back to the mainland." The video was like 9.5, almost 10 years old. I just stumbled across it the other day, but because I knew I was coming here actually. And but interesting enough, the night before we left, a good friend of ours, Craig Cook, real great longtime friend, he texted me one night. Laura and I were talking about the different streams and the different moves of God coming together, and how we felt like we were supposed to bring together the missions movement, the prayer movement, the revival movement, and the prophetic movement, and manifest it in the midst of Cry. And literally just then, Craig Cook texts and he says this. He said, Sean, you've been a part of many motherships. You've been alongside of these different streams. But the Lord says you're going to bring them all together, and when you do, there's going to be a mighty move of God's presence and His power. And I'll tell you, over the last year, it has blown our mind in terms of these different streams and different leaders crossing together, and how Cry has worked with different ones. It's been phenomenal, and like no other time in history since we got that word. So as you guys know, we moved to Nashville. 18 months or so there. We ended up losing that property that Danny Goki was letting us use. It was a wing of a hospital. We did a bunch of trainings there. Then we moved to Wilmington, had a warehouse for 5 years there, and then we ended up moving to Fort Mill, South Carolina. And in the interim of that, my family and I moved to Fort Mill, South Carolina, Charlotte area. In the interim, we got the Cry base, and we've been there since March 2019. Thousands of people have come and gotten trained. We've done schools, lots of volunteers, lots of hard work, and it's been an incredible journey. And about 9 months ago, one day, I was praying about the base because we just stopped getting vision or direction or what school, and we weren't, the base was designed to run ARC schools, and it's something we've always done, and we weren't getting any vision for that. And because of that, the base doesn't have what it needs to operate. So I was asking the Lord about it, and the Lord spoke to me and He said, Sean, I want you to put Isaac on the altar. And I kind of stuck my fingers in my ear and I kind of pretended I didn't hear what I just heard, and He can't mean what I think that He means. And so then the Florida hurricane popped off. Ukraine, went over on a couple trips to Ukraine. So this was all before that. Then Turkey, went over there on a couple of trips. And, when I got back from those deployments, I'm like, this is where everybody wants to be. They want to be out on deployment. We want to be making impact. And I had gone through some health challenges, and then I was able to deploy. I'm like, I want to spend more time out on deployment. This is what I want to do. And so, anyway, so I began to look at the practicals of the camp. Like, is this producing the fruit that we want? Is this the way and the means? And you guys got to realize this, that the dream of Billy Graham, go build the Apostolic Sending Center, and the other dream with Lauren about putting New Face on missions, leaving Hawaii, we thought we were going to step into it the next day. That was 9.5 years ago. And we've been at the Cry base for 4 years. And when we stepped onto the Cry base, we're like, this is it. This is it. And so when the Lord said, put Isaac on the altar, that was, Isaac was the promise. Isaac was the way that we were going to fulfill those prophetic words of raising up a new breed of missionary and putting a new face on on missions, and in the context of Matthew 24, Luke 21. And so, I began to look around just at the practicals. I saw the burden on the staff, and trying to get volunteers up at the camp, and it's probably 9 months or so, give or take. And finally, I was out for a prayer one day with the Lord, and I just said, okay, Lord, if I have to be honest with you, I'm willing. I know what you want here because I'm not hearing anything else. I give you the camp. And that day I got a call from a real estate agent that I had contacted just to find out some information months and months prior. And then two people close to me, one was Laura, another guy had another dream. Two people had dreams about property, about new property. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so anyway, meanwhile, we decided to refilm Cry Academy. I was with the staff and I said, hey, we're going to take the month of June, we're going to refilm Cry Academy, which we just did. It's awesome. It's amazing. We just did a live training with the same content. Wonderful. The team has worked so hard on this. Laura's worked so hard on this. The training team, it's amazing. So anyway, we're going to be relaunching that soon. Anyway, with all of that going on, in the staff meeting, suddenly I just blurted out, and I'm going to take the month of July and work on my book. And I'm like, where did that come from? But it sounds like a good idea. I need to get this done. I've been working on it for like 8 years, but these disasters keep happening, and then we got the base, and it just kind of all went on hold. So then my daughter says, hey, Dad, Mom, I want to go to Riders Camp in Kona, Hawaii, which was the circuit riders. I know it sounds like Writers Camp, but it was Riders Camp. And Laura was going to go with Sila. And then one day, Laura comes to me and she goes, Sean, I think you're supposed to take Sila. I think God's got something for you in this. Now, come on, that's quite the woman who turns down a trip to Hawaii. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to, work on the online training, and then we're going to go to Hawaii and I'll work on the book. And I was frustrated the whole month of July because all I was doing, I wasn't working on the book. I was just working on the online training. One day the Lord stopped me and said, Sean, you are working on the book. This is all the groundwork. You're going through all the old stories, all the old pictures. And so it's really interesting to find myself back here. I knew that I was going to have to make an announcement about, hey, we're putting Isaac on the altar. This is what the Lord told us to do. And it worked out for the timing of being right here when almost 10 years ago we announced, okay, we're leaving Kona and we're going to go find this property and how to fulfill these words. And maybe I'll throw a link down below with this video so you can go back and you can watch it. I'm talking about the two same dreams. You'll realize how significant these two words are in terms of guidance to our lives. So what makes it really interesting is Laura ends up, she goes, okay, I finally said, okay, I think I'm going to go. And she rents me a hotel room, and it's the hotel room from the dream from 10 years ago. It looks just like it, very, very similar. I get to the place, and I walk into the courtyard, and literally there's a guy remodeling a room with a dust mask on. And if you remember in the dream, Lauren comes in and he scoops up my two girls. And for the first time in our family history, both my daughters, two of our four daughters, the three in the house anyway, are involved with YWAM, which it just speaks to the timing of this dream. But it's been difficult. Like, God, this is the way we're going to fulfill this. This is the dream. We've been dreaming of this mission base from the very beginning, from the early days in Kansas City in my garage. Now you want us to offer it up to you. So it was like a 9 months process of just getting to a place of going, okay, Lord. And most days it really freaks me out, to be honest. I'm just being honest. Like, are you sure, God? Are you sure this is what you want? And so that's what's happening. The base is going to be officially listed probably as soon as this video goes out. We wanted to give everybody a heads up. We don't know what the Lord is going to do with all of this. We don't know if it's end up not selling, or the Lord's going to produce a ram in the thicket. It's really interesting. In Genesis 22, it says, then Abraham looked behind him and saw a ram with its horns stuck in the thicket. And I've just been going through the prophetic words. Lord, did we go off anywhere? Are we missing something that we need to pick up? Or is there something you want us to show us? So went back and watched this video that I did 10 years ago. And somebody even came up to us in Charlotte in October after we did the training. And they gave me a word. They said, they took the training, and they said a year ago, they wrote down in their Bible disaster relief training, and then they came to Charlotte. They ended up getting involved, and they took the training. And the day after the training, she said, I found the daily scripture verse from a year ago. It said disaster relief training. I just did this. Obviously, the Lord set me up. And she wrote some other comments next to it. And the guy who she was talking to was Bruce Weepert, which is just really interesting. And Bruce's name means from the thicket. And she had given us a word about this. I had wrote it down, but I just felt, again, this is having to do with the timing right now, that the Lord's going to produce a ram somehow. And so anyway, I wanted to just throw out some of the guidance that the Lord's been giving us in regard to this. I wanted to let you guys know that the the base is being listed for sale. That's really hard. I mean, I trust the Lord enough after being in so many different properties that He knows what He's doing, and I have confidence in that. But here's the thing. Here's, my speculation. I'm going to give you some speculation, and then I'm going to tell you what we absolutely do know, okay? And that might be helpful to everybody to understand. So what I feel is coming on the horizon when the first whispers of COVID broke out, thing that the Lord said to me, He said, Sean, this is weaponized and it's going to come to blows with China. When Ukraine popped off, the Lord said, Sean, take good notes, it's coming here. And then, I got back from my second trip from Ukraine, and I got a call from a major leader in the prayer movement, and he said, Sean, when you're in Ukraine, take good notes, it's coming here. The exact same phrase that the Lord gave me. And, my notes in Ukraine, this is what I saw. Obviously, devastation, people dying, and I was looking, but the thing that really stood out to me is that it was a time of massive harvest. Amidst the devastation, it was a time of absolute massive harvest. Life as we knew it got turned upside down. The women fled, the men stayed. The Ukrainians rose up to the occasion in that moment. But it was a time of massive harvest. Every leader that we met with, every ministry that we met with, they said, we can't contain the salvations. And that is what I want to get ready for. We are being positioned, whatever the Lord's doing in this, whether the base sells or doesn't sell, if this is just a test of obedience, I don't know what it is, but I know that the Lord is pivoting us and positioning us for a massive harvest. And that is the thing that's gripping me in this moment. And so, what we do know for sure is over the last 9 months, we've seen a convergence of the prayer movement, the prophetic movement. I've done some things at Morning Star, ran the Special Forces program for a year. I'm not going to be doing it this year, but we're going to be doing quarterly trainings at Morning Star. Mike Hutchings has joined our board of directors. He's from the Renewal Stream, the Revival Stream from Global Awakening, Randy Clark's ministry. Another announcement I want to tell you, Justin Perry, who, longtime friend, he was with us back in the early days in Kansas City when we birthed Cry in the garage. That's when we first connected. He was with Morning Star for about 20 years, on staff for 12, but he was like the senior pastor there for Rick for about 7 or 8 years, up until about a year ago when Chris Reed came in and took over. Justin Perry is joining our full-time staff. He's coming in as our operational director, and my mind's blown with this. What an incredible person, such integrity, humility, and I believe that in this next season he's really going to be able to take Cry to the next level. It's going to help free me up for I want to be out there doing trainings. I want to be out there on deployment. I want to be able to create content, finish writing. I just spent 10 days here while my daughter was at camp. I got 7 chapters of the book written. Lord was all over it. Just amazing to go back and look at all the history and God's faithfulness. Absolutely incredible. So we just finished up a major audit in Cry. This was a voluntary thing that we did, and that was awesome. We're so glad, We're in a restructuring process in the midst of Cry, so we're putting a lot of new infrastructure and processes and procedures. Our team has been really hard at work with this. We're going to need a boatload of help up at the camp. If you want to come volunteer, hang out with us up there. We're doing a lot of projects just in prepping the property and whatnot. We're doing a lot of things in the back end systems and protocols, and our staff who's just behind the scenes, they're amazing. So grateful for them. But what we're doing is we're trying to consolidate everything. We're trying to get rid of the drag. We want to do our mission better. We want to train and mobilize. That is what Cry does, train and mobilize. And we're going to relaunch this new online training. It's my goal to raise up 10,000 new online trained people. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do all sorts of additional and advanced training events that will give people very specific and more advanced skills, and that's going to be rolling out in the days ahead. The other thing that we want to focus on as well is we're trying to buy, we don't have the money for this, but we're trying to buy this modular base camp system. It's tents, it's got bathrooms, it's got showers, it's got bunks, And this is going to allow us to deploy sooner. We can go right out the door. As soon as the disaster happens, we're down the road, and then we can stay longer without being a burden to a local church while we're sleeping in their sanctuary and trying to shower in their sinks, in their bathrooms. You guys know, if you've been out on deployment, that gets hard for a church when they want to get back to normal. So those are a few of the things that we're doing. All I know is this, guys. When I got back from Florida, after I got back from Turkey, after I got from Ukraine, again, I just feel like this is where we want to put our weight. We want to train people, as many as possible, but we want to put our weight, our resources, our energy into deployment. If the base sells, if that's what the Lord has, then we're going to take that staff and those resources and the people, we're going to pour it into training and deployment like we never have before. I want to get, like, shower trailers for, for people to be able to come in and shower, laundry machines. We need a Bobcat. We got a new generator coming online, but we're going to build out this whole new base camp. And, if you think about it, again, if the base sells, if this is an obedience thing, then Lord, whatever you want to do, He's Lord. But it's clear this is what He wants to do, where He wants us right now with Isaac on the altar. But my point is this, is, thinking about it practically, the amount of time, money, resources, emotional energy that goes into maintaining a piece of property like that. Like, if this translates, if the base sells, let's translate all of that equity, all of that hard work, all of the love, all of the donations, everything that's gone into that, and let's pour it into deployment. Let's pour it into training. Let's pour it into actually touching people, being able to do it better, being able to do it longer. And that's really what this is about. If this is actually the direction that it's going, we're kind of along for the ride here as well. But I wanted to let you guys know that. There's some things up at the camp. We have a $300,000 septic repair. That's not an offering that I personally want to have to take. I'd rather put that money, $300,000, into a base camp where we're out there touching people. We're going. And we got some other exciting things happening with deployment behind the scenes. Obviously, Jared, is coming on board, and just some great things. So just a kind of behind the scenes snapshot. Things are really good. We're excited, but we feel like whatever this pivot is for, if this is how the Lord leads us, we feel like it's unto fruitfulness, it's unto a great harvest, and onward and upward with the Lord. So, but there you have it. There's my story. Hopefully that made sense to you guys. I'll link the old video from here. I was rambling about it, maybe not as precisely back then because we didn't know as much, but this pivot is about a great harvest. And we're going to be doing a lot of other things as well. We want to raise up some special ops teams. There's been a real thing lately with men, and just interesting. Another interesting point too. Even coming back here, reconnected with YWAM, and they're asking about training and deploying with us to crisis situations around the earth, which is just super exciting. So, anyway, love you guys. God bless you. Thank you for your support. I will keep you posted as we learn stuff, and that's all I got. So from Hawaii, I got to get out of this sun because my face is already burnt to a crisp, but we love you guys. We appreciate you guys, and I just want to say thank you, especially to those people who have come and served at the base, people who have donated, and just rest assured that all of that resource is going to translate into deployment, into harvest, into a new property. We're, for now, we're just thinking, hey, we'll consolidate everything down in the Charlotte Fort Mill area. Easier for people to fly into. We can host teams overnight. International teams can come there. It's one flight instead of two. And we'll just see what the Lord brings in the days ahead. But that's all I have, guys. God bless you. I got to go catch a flight. I'm heading home. Love you guys. God bless.